My name is Paitin Powell. I'm a National Finalist for Miss Grand Australia 2023, and this is my interview with the Pageant Project.
Good afternoon, everyone. It's Adrian from the Pageant Project with you. My special guest for today is Paitin Powell, who is a Miss Grand Australia National Finalist. Paitin, welcome to the show.
Hi, thank you so much for having me. I'm happy to finally be here. We've been trying to organise this for a little while now, so I'm happy that we're finally doing this.
It's probably been about 18 months, but better late than never. How is everything going? I mean, when is Miss Grand happening? It's in a few days, isn't it?
That's exactly right. Yeah. So I'm actually flying out on Tuesday. So I'm flying out in 2 days' time. And I'll be down in Melbourne and I'm going to meet all of the girls, and the Miss Grand Australia competition will be starting as of Wednesday.
Can you believe it's already been a year?
No, I know. It's so crazy to think that to be honest with you, it's so crazy to think that a year is already gone since last year's crowning night. But it's also crazy to think that, so I applied for Miss Grand Australia at the start of this year and been preparing since the start of this year. And the fact that 6 or 7 months is gone, it seems like it's been the longest time, but it also seems like it's been over in like the blink of an eye. So yeah, it's crazy to think that it's just around the corner.
Has it felt any different this time going into the competition? I mean, I should say for the people who aren't aware, you did very well last year. Obviously, you came first runner-up, which I often actually say is the worst position to come because.
You tell me that on the night. Thank you.
Yeah. Oh, you remember that? Good. At least I'm being consistent, giving you positive advice. But has it felt any different in the lead up this year as opposed to last year?
I think just this year being my second year competing, I myself feel a little bit more prepared. I feel like I know a little bit more about the competition. I know how well I can prepare and how much I need to be prepared. So that's really the only thing that feels different for me, to be honest with you, is just how I'm going into the competition and how my preparation is going into the competition.
And have you done many pageants before? I mean, obviously I've stalked you on social, so I know you do modeling here and there. And forgive me if I'm wrong, but I think it was like a modeling school or deportment school, and I think you were coaching some little ones. So how did pageantry and modeling get into your life?
So my whole pageantry and modeling, I guess, career, you could say, started 10 years ago. So I'm 25 now. I started when I was about 14 or 15. And my cousin was actually a huge inspiration for me to get into pageantry and modeling. She did quite well in the modeling industry and really well in the pageant world. So Maddie was a huge influence for me to be able to go and have a go at these things. So when I was about 14 or 15, I reached out to my mom and dad and I said that I'm interested in modeling. I'm interested in this whole pageant world. And being in North Queensland, there wasn't very much available 10 years ago at the age of 14 or 15. So to kickstart it all, my mum and dad enrolled me into a modeling and deportment school an hour and a half from where I live. So during school term, every 2 weeks, my mum or dad would drive me to Mackay, an hour and a half south from where I am, and I would do these classes. So I'd learn basic modeling skills, deportment, posing, all of that sort of stuff. And basically, just a couple of months into being enrolled into the school, the teacher, Brooke, she came up to my mum and I after a class, and she said to me, Brooke's involved in Miss Teen Australia. She's doing a lot with the Queensland side of Miss Teen Australia, and if I was interested in applying. And I spoke to my mum and dad about it, and I said, yes, I really want to give this a go. Can I please do it? My mum and dad allowed me to do so. And I first competed in pageants at the age of 15, and I competed in Miss Teen Australia. So I did that for 3 years in a row until I was 18, and then obviously come of age and could no longer compete in the teen system. So my last year of competing, I think I made top 5, if I'm being honest. I think I came fourth. So that was kind of the end of that. I had done it for 3 consecutive years and I was enjoying what I did, but then could no longer compete. So after that, I had a little bit of a break, kind of was trying to work myself out. I was out of school. I was a young woman. I was trying to work out where I wanted to be, what I wanted to do. And in 2019, I competed or applied for Miss World Australia. And the reason why I chose Miss World as my first pageant system to compete in is because my cousin actually competed in Miss World Australia, and she was Miss World Australia 2016, Madeline Cow. So Maddie was a huge
Oh, wow.
inspiration. Yeah, so Maddie was a huge inspiration for
That
me.
Maddie.
That Maddie, that Maddie is my cousin. So Maddie was a really big inspiration for me, and that was really the main reason as to why I went into the world system, mainly because I had a little bit more of an understanding of it through her.
Yeah.
After that, I competed in that. I was a national finalist. I didn't place, but I learned so many skills from it being my first, I guess, adult pageant or woman
Mm.
pageant, as I'd only competed in teen pageantry before that. So that happened. 2019 came to an end. And of course, the end of 2019, 2020 started and COVID hit, and the whole world was a little bit of a jumble.
Yeah.
Pageantry was a little bit of a jumble. So I took a break. And then in 2022, last year, I applied to Miss Grand Australia. It was a completely different pageant system. I knew nothing about the pageant system. And I thought, I hadn't done this for a couple of years. I miss the pageant side of things. I miss the preparation and the competing in a pageant, and I'll give it another go and see what happens. And yeah, lo and behold, I found my place, and I felt like I really aligned with the Miss Grand
Mhm.
Australia organization. And here I am competing for the second year in a row with them, and I'm really happy.
What made you feel like you aligned with them? Was it the way the competition works? Was it the team? Was it the advocacy? Obviously, Miss Grand Australia, I think one of the best parts about it is the advocacy, which obviously is Destiny Rescue. And
Mm.
again, having stalked you on social media, I feel like you are working full time cooking sausages at Bunnings.
I know.
We'll get on to that. How many have you done? Five?
Full-time cooking sausages. My dad and my boyfriend are very working full time doing the sausage cooking. But yes, I just finished my fifth one yesterday, so no more
Wow.
sausage cooking for me for a little while now.
Are you sick of the smell and the sight and the sound of sausages cooking?
I feel like you can't get over the smell of it. And you know what? It's
Yeah.
not even the sausages that is the smell, it's the onion. Like the cooked
Yeah.
onion is like the iconic smell of a Bunnings sausage sizzle. So um, I'm going to take a little break for a while. I've done my
Okay.
fair sausage sizzles. But in regards to your question and aligning with
Mm,
Miss Grand Australia, um, I think how I felt that I aligned with Miss Grand Australia, and what I actually love about the Miss Grand Australia platform and their organization, is that they're so for the girls. Every
mm,
single girl that competes in that pageant gets something out of it. This Amber and the past directors and the whole organization is about focusing on each individual girl and making sure that
mm.
she gets the most out of the experience, from her preparation, any questions that she has. The team is there for every single girl, and that's what I really liked and what I felt really comfortable with the Miss Grand Australia organization, is I felt like I was a part of the family, and it didn't matter that I came from North Queensland, or it didn't matter that I hadn't competed in the organization or that pageant
Yeah.
system before. They were 100% behind me, and they were 100% behind every single one of the girls that competed. And I think that's really special, and maybe in some systems hard to find.
Yeah. I'd 100% agree with that. When you say North Queensland, obviously I'm from Australia, but how far North Queensland are we talking about?
Well, Queensland is such a big state, and it's
It's huge.
especially the east coast, like the whole coast of it is quite long. But if you can imagine where Brisbane is at the bottom and where
Mhm,
Cairns is at the top, the
mhm.
Whitsundays is pretty much bang smack in the middle. So it takes about 12
Wow.
hours for us to drive to Brisbane. And everyone always thinks that Cairns is just up the road, but it takes 9 hours. It's a 9 hour car ride to get to Cairns. So the Whitsundays is, yeah, pretty well bang smack in the middle. And then
Hang
even
on,
above
you
Cairns, it's so much more above Cairns too. So
Yeah,
it's a big
yeah.
state.
No, I've been to Cairns, I will say. But did you just say that you live in the Whitsundays?
Yeah, yeah, I do. So I live in,
That
well, the suburb in the Whitsundays is Airlie Beach or Cannon Vale. The Whitsundays is the whole of the region and the islands and things like that. But yeah, I say I live in the Whitsundays.
that's like the prettiest
I
place
know.
on the planet, isn't it? I mean, it's like white sand,
Yeah,
beaches, sun, ocean. Like you live in heaven, basically.
yeah. I live in a holiday destination. I'm very lucky.
Wow. Okay.
Mm.
So, but I mean, living there, is it? I mean, you already mentioned like some very long driving times, and you mentioned that the deportment school was an hour and a half away. That's not an insignificant drive. How
Mm.
how difficult is it to do what you want to do as a young woman living, let's say, in the North Queensland, where you're not, let's say, real close to Brisbane or the
Yeah,
Gold Coast, which are the bigger metropolitan centres?
yeah, definitely. I think I've just made it work. I love where I live and I'm proud of where I come from. I'm proud to live in North Queensland. So I think, in regards to what I advocate for and how I want to follow this pageant journey, I just make
Mm.
it work. I do. I just make it work.
Have you given any thought to, do you need to move somewhere else for work or for career, or are you able to? I mean, in this day and age, a lot of things can be done from pretty much anywhere, which is a good thing, like with remote working. But are you going to be staying put in the Whitsundays? I mean, I wouldn't blame you if you did. It's beautiful.
At the moment, I have no reason to move. I'm comfortable where I am. When I was younger, I thought about potentially going down to like Brisbane, Gold Coast, Sunshine
Mhm.
Coast kind of area, just where there's a bit more hustle and bustle and more opportunity. But at the moment, I have my little clique. I have my friends, my family. I have my career here. I teach the classes at the modeling and deportment school here now too. So I just have I'm situated and I'm happy.
Mhm.
If for whatever reason something comes up where I may need to move, then I'm definitely open to it. But at the moment, I'm happy with my life here in the Whitsundays.
What's the weather like in the Whitsundays? Like on a daily basis?
It depends on the time of the year. So at the moment, winter, everyone always says to me, Peyton, you live in the Whitsundays. I want to come visit. What month do you recommend me visiting? And I
Yeah.
say now. So from kind of June to about September, October is like the prime time to come because it's guaranteed it's not going to pretty well rain. And it's beautiful blue skies. There's, yeah, no clouds. It's a really nice time. The other part of the year, it's like torrential rain. So I wouldn't recommend coming from October until, yeah, about the start of Christmas, start of winter,
Yeah.
only because it's a bit of a hit and miss in regards to whether it's going to be raining for you or not. But
Oh,
that's
wow.
Queensland. Yeah, that's North Queensland.
I didn't know that. Is that because it's like the sort of tropical weather?
That's exactly right. Yeah. So we call it like the
Oh,
wet season or the tropic season or tropical season, or cyclone season is another thing that it's called. And it's pretty much from, yeah, October, November till around the time winter comes around.
wow.
So it's a
Okay.
good,
I had
yeah,
no idea.
yeah, that it's guaranteed that, yeah, you can't really guess if it's going to rain or not.
Yeah. No, I just thought that where you're at, because obviously the photos that you see of the Whitsundays, it's always sunny. So you just figure that it
Yeah.
must always be like that. Never crossed my mind that it's wet
No,
season, dry season.
no.
Deportment school, that's something I haven't discussed with a lot of girls. In some ways, I feel it's almost old fashioned. I remember back in the day, June Daly Watkins and her deportment school. What does one learn, particularly in a deportment school? Because it's not just a modeling school. My understanding is it's like etiquette, manners, basically how to be a lady. Or am I off base?
No, no, you are correct. And I kind of agree in the sense that it's maybe an old fashioned
Mm,
term. So the school that I now teach at is a school that I first started at 10 years ago. So I've done a bit of a round the twist and I've come back and I'm now no longer a student, I'm a teacher. But this is my first year teaching classes with Brooke and Brooklyn modeling. But
mhm,
basically, over the year, there's different stages. So you start as a beginner and then you slowly work your way up into like an intermediate and advanced and things like that. But I'm taking on the newbies at the moment. I'm taking on the beginner girls. So what we have learned so far, 6 months into the first year, is basic catwalk. So how to hold yourself when you're walking, your
mhm.
posture, anything from like where your shoulders need to be to where your chin needs to be. We learn posing, how to stand in front of a camera, how to pose in front of a camera. But then the deportment side of things is speaking in front of people. So a big thing that we do at the start of every class is we all have a conversation with each other where we sit down, kind of like what you and I are doing now. And we just say, this is my name. This is what I've done since we've seen each other last time. And it's just growing and developing communication skills and allowing
Mm.
these young girls to be able to have a conversation with somebody, which is something that I found very beneficial when I first started as a student with Brooklyn. Also the side of deportment is we've gone over table etiquette. So how to, so if you're at a fancy meal or a fancy restaurant and you have all the knives and forks and all the plating, it's how you actually sit, how you pass things to somebody. So I guess it is kind of a little bit maybe old fashioned, but I think it's skills that as a young woman you need to have or should have. And I think they can
Mm.
be very beneficial in life.
Oh, when I say old fashioned, I mean no disrespect by it. I think
No,
like things
no,
like
no.
I think like manners and courtesy is old
Yeah.
fashioned, but I don't think it should ever go out of fashion.
No,
Can you just quickly one question that I always have with deportment,
mm.
with dining, does a glass go on the left or the right? Which one is my glass?
So Brooke taught us that. So how did we do it? We did it. So we're back to front, sorry, but if you go, well, if you were to go like this,
Yeah,
and the hand that makes the D. So if you're looking
yeah.
at it, this to me looks like a B. This to me looks like a D. The
Okay,
drink
so my
goes on.
right hand.
Yep, the drink goes on.
Oh, that's so cool. So what
Yeah.
goes on the B? Is it the bread roll?
Yes, that's exactly right. It is, yeah. So your bread roll is your B, and your drink is your D. So, and that's how. So that you're not crossing across with everyone. Yeah, that's how it goes around the table. So,
That's
so you see all these little girls at the table doing these ones, like trying to
oh,
work out.
I'm going to be doing this.
I know.
Next time I go to like a fine dining restaurant, I'll be doing this going, oh, D. Because
Thank
I can never remember. I know that like, you go from the outside in when
Yeah.
it go, entree main, but I could never work out the B and the D. With the deportment side, you mentioned sitting down, having a conversation like what you and I are doing here. And I think 20 or 30 years ago, that was easier because we didn't have social media and the world back then, we had to interact face to face. And I
Yeah.
think in this day and age, everything is social media. I'm sure
Mm.
you've noticed that even if you're living in North Queensland, everything is messaging this, DM this. We just had threads drop on Instagram, so
I still don't
it's
understand it.
yeah, it's all social, 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 and then you meet young people in particular, and even older people who are out of practice. They sit down, and it's almost really uncomfortable to have a normal conversation because we
Yeah.
seem to do it really rarely. I mean,
Yeah.
some people more for work than others, but
Yeah.
do the young ones coming in, and I don't know how old they are, but do the young ones struggle to
Yeah.
just have a normal conversation?
Yeah, 100%. So the youngest that I have in my group is about 10 or 11.
Wow. Okay.
They are little girls. They are little girls, but we have girls up to about 14. So we're kind of in that lower to mid-teen range is what the beginners are. But in regards to a conversation, they are nervous. And I think it's just because, like you said, social media is such a big thing now. Snapchat,
Mm.
FaceTiming, text messaging. We're not so used to sitting down and just making eye-to-eye contact with somebody
Yeah, it
and
can be
having
very
a conversation.
uncomfortable.
It's considered such an uncomfortable thing to do. So that's why at the start of all of our classes, we just make it an effort to sit down in a circle, going in turns, having a talk. And it's as simple as saying, hey, like, this is my name. This is what I did at the school holidays. This is what I learned in class last week. And it's just a matter of these girls pushing themselves out of their comfort zone and getting uncomfortable and learning a basic skill like having a
Mm.
conversation with someone who genuinely just wants to hear about their day.
Yeah.
It's nothing awkward, it's nothing that needs to be uncomfortable, but it's a skill that unfortunately we've lacked and we're losing.
Yeah.
So I think it's nice that we're doing it.
Absolutely. I mean, it can be very intimidating. Sometimes the simplest
Mm.
skills, you think, oh, everyone can do that. And it's actually very difficult and challenging, especially
Yeah.
for young people in this day and age. Where do you start when so if they're having a conversation? Because I can only imagine, for example, having interviewed hundreds of pageant girls, a lot of you worry about ahs, likes.
Like,
So I call them the brain farts. But then you also have, am I like hand gesturing wildly, or am I sitting on my hands? Do I keep playing with my hair? Do I fidget? Do I make eye contact? Do I not? Do I speak like a normal person, or is it very monotone? There are so many nuances that you could do with having a good conversation, and then
mm,
listening as well. I found
yeah.
is very, if you want to have a conversation, you need to also learn to listen, not just to speak. So where do you start?
So basically, we just start with sitting in a circle. The
Yeah.
girls are encouraged to sit cross-legged, nice and tall, shoulders back,
Hmm.
not to fidget. So we encourage the girls with their hands to place them on the top of their
On their lap.
knee,
Right.
hand on top. So that way, if they want to squeeze their fingers, if that makes them more comfortable, if they want to squeeze their knee, it makes them more comfortable. But I agree, they're not doing these ones
The
and
hand
touching their
gestures.
hands
Yeah.
and whatnot. You're standing still. And it basically just starts off as simple. So the very first class, when a beginner comes in, the first thing in our circle, all I ask the girls to do is say, hi, my name is Paitin. I'm 25 years old. I go to whatever school they go to or whatever job they do.
Hmm.
And this is a fun fact about me. And that's it. It's not necessarily a conversation. It's just more of a fact. It's an introduction. It's a more of
Yep.
them introducing themselves to the group. And then from there, each class will build on it. So the next time they come back, I'll get them to say the same thing again. Hey, my name is Peyton. I'm 25. I go to this school or do this
Hmm.
job. this is what I learned at school last week, or this is what I did at the school holidays. And then we encourage the girls to ask questions about that. So if a girl were to say, oh, I went camping on my school holidays. Okay, where did you go camping? What did you do? Who did you go with? So it's just more of having a fun conversation. It's nothing controversial. It's nothing scary.
Yeah.
It's just a matter of slowly building up skills.
Where do the girls tend to come from? Because obviously you're in a relatively isolated area, and
Mm-hmm.
deportment is an old-fashioned word. But
Mm-hmm.
obviously you have young girls coming in who want to learn about this. How do they hear about it in the first place? I mean, you had Maddie, and so I would assume heard or talked about it through there. But how do the other girls get to hear about the word deportment and then go, "Oh, I want to do that"?
Yeah, I think it's the way that the school is titled. So it's titled a modelling and deportment school. And
Right.
when Brooke first started it, she started it mainly like purely based in Mackay. So that was why I travelled majority of the time. But over
Hmm.
the last couple of years, and since her school has grown and she's had a bigger group of people wanting to apply, she's now been able to actually hold her classes in Mackay, but she also holds classes in Serena, which is another town at 2 hours from where I live. She holds classes in the Whitsundays, and she also holds classes in Bowen. So I think the fact that she's branched out her business and is going to the girls as opposed to the girls trying to come to her is what has helped make her business perhaps more successful, or what has
Mm.
helped wanting to actually apply for the school. So, but I think also the fact that it's titled a modeling and
Yeah.
deportment school, it's not maybe
Yeah.
as scary and a little bit more fun. And the girls think, oh, yes, like I'm interested in modeling. This is the first step I can do as a young girl in North Queensland. So, yeah.
Yeah. I mean, we've mentioned Madeline a couple of times, and obviously she did very well in the pageant world. How influential was she? Like, what is it having as a cousin someone who's done so well in
Yeah.
pageantry?
Yeah, I'm really fortunate, and Maddie and I have my whole family in general. We're a huge family, but we all get along really well. And my grandparents and my family, and mum and dad, and aunties and cousins have always made family our first priority,
Mhm.
and always encouraged us to stay close to family and to reach out to family. So Maddie's been very influential for me. She's someone that I can just flick a text message to and say, and get an opinion on an outfit, or what color accessories would I wear with this? Can just to ask for advice with someone who you can be also very vulnerable with.
Yeah.
It's different having a conversation with someone that you've never met and you're trying to get advice and all those sort of things. So I think knowing that Maddie, is just family, and we have Christmas together and we have birthdays together, it's just a more comfortable conversation, and she's someone that I'm more comfortable with asking advice for, because I know I'm going to get probably the honest truth, and I'll happily forget it. Yeah.
I mean, you mentioned Christmases and birthdays. Is it ever weird if you sit down for a Christmas dinner and you realize you're sitting across Miss World Australia? Does that ever cross your mind?
No,
No.
it doesn't. It doesn't. It doesn't at all. And Maddie's so down to earth, and she's so humble. Like, she would not expect anybody to
Yeah.
be thinking that anyway. But no, Christmas at our house is like, I'm sure any other normal family Christmas. Maddie does not get any royalty or anything like that because she's Miss World Australia 2016. She still has to wait in line when we're all lining up, things like that. She does not get to cut to the front.
When do you know when the last time she wore her crown and sash was?
No, actually, I don't. Mm, I don't know when the last time she would have worn it was. No, to be honest with you, I don't know. I don't know when she would have pulled that out of the cupboard.
Well,
Not to Christmas.
2000.
She hasn't brought it to
Well,
Christmas.
no, hopefully not. Not to a Bunning sausage sizzle.
No.
I mean, 2016 is almost, it's even predates when I got into pageantry. So in pageant land, it's a very, very long time ago, 7 years. It's not really, but it feels like it. Tell me more about the Bunnings sausage sizzle. I
Mhm.
was speaking to someone else who's done a Bunning sausage sizzle. No one's done. How many have you done? Five?
I did
No
one
one. No
every
one has. No one has done more than one, I think, and here you are doing 5. So, how has it been going? Because I saw the total at the moment, it's $4,000? North of
Yeah.
4,000? Which
Yeah,
is
so
amazing.
from yeah, thank you. So from the sausage sizzles alone, from the one that I did yesterday, my fifth and final, I've raised over $4,000 just from the sausage sizzles. So they're great. They're a really, really good way to raise funds and do fundraising in your community. And I encourage anybody who is interested in fundraising or doing any sort of that work to reach out to their local Bunnings. It's a great system. They set everything up for you. You just have to show up and clean it, and they pack it down for you. So yeah, I strongly encourage anybody to do it. It's great. I really enjoyed it.
How does it work? Is there like a dedicated Bunnings community person, and you just flick them an email, say, "Hey, I'd like to do a sausage sizzle on this date," and then it goes from there?
Yeah. So from my understanding, every Bunnings throughout Australia has an event coordinator or an event organizer. So I just walked into my local Bunnings one day and I just said, "Hey, who do I need to get in contact with if I want to do this?" And they sent me this lady's email. I got in contact with her, and she pretty much just made sure I had all my I's dotted and T's crossed, and had all the legal and things, legal side of things covered. But other than that, it's just pretty much you say, "These are my available dates. Are they available for you?" And they say yes or no, and they put it in their calendar, and you just have to rock up in the morning with all of your sausages and bread.
Have you ever been to the Bunnings before, or was this your first time?
Oh no, I've been plenty of times. I love Bunnings. I love Bunnings. I have a green thumb. I love to garden, and I love being outside. So no, Bunnings is not a new place for me.
That's very cool. I love Bunnings. I hate IKEA, but I do love Bunnings. I didn't know.
I mean, IKEA. We don't have an IKEA in North Queensland. I've never been to one.
You are not missing out. The only reason to go to IKEA is to go get their meatballs. They
Oh,
literally have you. It's like a rat's maze in IKEA. Once you go in, you can't get out until you've walked through the whole store. You literally have to go one way. I can't stand it, but a lot of the other people, especially girls, love it.
so
I
IKEA
always.
has food. You buy food, like you can get food at
It's
IKEA.
got a cafe in the middle. The only way you'd be able to drag me to IKEA is if you made me go, but then you let me just go to the cafe and just eat meatballs whilst you do whatever you have to do. Because I've actually had recurring nightmares because it's similar to Bunnings. I don't know how big yours are, but some of them around me are huge. Like the
Yeah.
shelves go 4 or 5 meters, 10 meters in the air. And I had these recurring nightmares. I'm going to go to IKEA, can't get out, and the shelf like falls on me, and I just have to live in IKEA for the rest of my life.
And live
It's
off
really.
meatballs for the rest of your life.
Well, that may not be so bad, but I was planning on living outside of IKEA. Um, did the Bunnings person have any strange reaction when you came back for the fifth time? I mean, you must be on a first name basis, like, "Oh, hi Paitin again, here to do your sausage sizzle. Yeah, here
Yeah.
again."
No, well, it was actually funny when I was packing up yesterday afternoon. The event coordinator came up to me and said, "So when are you back again next? When am I setting up for you next?" I said, no. I said, "I'm taking a break for a little while." I said, "I'll email you if I want to come back." But I think because we're such a small community, majority of the people. Oh,
You okay?
yeah, I think so. One
I
moment.
can still hear you.
Okay, cool. There we go. There we go. Sorry about that.
That's all right.
Let me just actually do that. Okay. What was I saying?
Bunnings
That
sausage
yeah,
sizzle.
yeah, sausage sizzle. So yeah, they said to me like when I'm coming back, and I said, no, I'm not. But because we're such a small community, majority of the people that are doing or using the Bunnings as their source of fundraising are like sporting communities and like little small
Okay.
events. So majority of the people that are doing it more than once. So it's not an odd thing for me to have done my fifth one with them. I
Okay.
think it's pretty normal for people to like continuously use it as a source of fundraising.
Okay. Yeah, well, 5 still sounds pretty impressive to me.
Yeah, I
Um,
think it's worth it.
and you've raised obviously an incredible amount of money, which is going to a good cause. I think last I checked, the figure to save one child was about $2,000, was it?
Yeah, so it's 1,800 to save a child. So at the moment, I looked this morning as a group in total. So all of us girls, and as a part of the Miss Grand Australia 2023 program, we've raised
Mhm.
over $40,000 so far. So
Wow.
yeah, so we've done a lot so far, which is really exciting. And as a group, we should be really proud.
That's north of 20 children saved. I mean, let me ask you, how does that feel knowing that you yourself, through your sausage sizzles, as fun as they might be and as silly as they might be, you've actually saved 2 children's lives? How does that feel?
Yeah, it's a really good feeling. So um, as well as the sausage sizzle, I've also done other ways of fundraising. So I've also collected 10-cent cans and bottles. I've done
Mhm.
raffles and I've done money boards. So actually, in total, altogether, I've raised as of this morning was
Wow,
$7,500
that's
for
amazing.
just yeah for Destiny Rescue. So Adrian, my main goal coming into this year. Last year I raised $2,500 for Destiny Rescue, which was something I was really
Blown
proud of.
that out of the water.
Yeah, yeah. So I was really proud of that, and my goal this year was to come in and just double it. I wanted to double it, and I've gone and tripled it, I guess, and I'm still fundraising as of the moment. So yeah, I'm really proud, and it's a really nice feeling to know that I'm making a difference, and that Miss Grand Australia offers this platform for other girls across the country to make a difference.
Yeah, I think it's very good of them to advocate for a cause that's maybe a bit more taboo as well.
Yeah,
I mean, there are a lot of worthy causes out there, but a bit easier to talk about than sex trade
yeah,
that's going on.
definitely.
You mentioned that you had a green thumb.
Mm.
Uh, Tell me more about that. I don't have a green thumb, but I'm trying to learn. We were at Bunnings actually the other day, and I convinced my mum to get some broccoli seeds, and now she's planted little broccoli sprouts out there, and I'm looking forward to
So
growing
good.
and eating my own broccoli.
I have
How
broccoli
far
at the moment.
how far does your green thumb go?
Yeah, it's pretty good. It's pretty good. I started really getting into gardening a couple of years ago, and mainly just like house plants and potted plants
Yeah.
at the time. And I was still living at home at that point, so this was 2 or 3 years ago. I was still living with mum and dad, and it got to a point where I had such an addiction. Every time I went to Bunnings, I had to come out with a plant. Like I couldn't go into Bunnings and not come out with a plant. It was so bad. My mum was not very happy with because I was bringing all these things home. Anyway, it got to a point, I think I counted, I had like up to 50 different types of like indoor house plants. And my mum and dad have a little bit of property and a little bit of acreage where we live. So there was plenty of space for them to be outside and flourish and live their best lives. Um, but yeah, it was getting to a point where mum was like, you need to just start like cutting these things up and potting them throughout the place. She's like, stop coming home with more of them. You have plenty, you have enough. Like, this is not a hobby anymore. It's actually an addiction and you need to chill out. um, so anyway, all of those houseplants now that I'm living out of home and I'm not living with mum anymore, mum has majority of them because they're quite big now.
Yeah.
I have a couple of little ones throughout the house here that I love ever so very much. But recently I've actually grown my own veggie garden. So I have 4 little potters outside at the moment, and I've got a whole heap of different things in there from tomatoes, broccoli, lettuce, spinach, blueberries. I have a blueberry tree, my third
Oh
blueberry
wow.
tree I'm trying to grow. This is the only thing I can't grow, Adrian, is a blueberry tree.
Why the blueberry? Is it the weather? Is it pests? What's going on?
It is because of my golden retriever.
Oh,
My dog.
what?
He eats it. He eats it. Adrian, I bought one for the first time and I was so excited. I thought, yes, like look at me, so wholesome, with my blueberry tree.
Yeah.
Anyway, and I had it outside in a pot and I came home from work one afternoon and it was just gone. Like there was no dirt anywhere, there was no trees, no stems. The whole thing had just gone and Kenai had just eaten this whole blueberry tree. I was very upset. So a week later, I bought another one and brought it back home and put it in a different location. And he then ate that one. So the blueberry tree I have at the moment is 3.0. So I'm hoping he's going to survive.
What? Okay.
But,
Why is he? Why? And why is he eating the whole thing and like potting mix? Is he eating the potting mix as well?
well, I assume he's getting a little bit of the potting mix because he eats like the blueberries, he eats the leaves, he eats the stems, he eats the roots, he eats everything. So I'm assuming by the time he gets to the roots, he's getting a little bit of potting mix in his tummy. But I don't know why he likes it. My boyfriend keeps saying to me, when Keno was a puppy, I used to give him blueberries like as a treat. And Aiden now thinks that that is the reason as to why he eats my blueberry trees. And it probably is. But for some reason, he just loves this blueberry tree and he eats the whole thing. He's eaten 2 of them.
Are you able to put? They have like natural. I know for cats because I have cats. They have natural compounds that smell funny that are supposed to keep them away, and I think it does work within reason. Is there anything that you can just put around the plant to sort of keep him at bay?
Well, I also outside have a lemon tree and a mandarin tree in big pots, and my mum gave me a natural kind of fertilizer or
Yeah,
deterrent for Kenai.
yeah.
And I put some little flowers, like some pansies or something like that, in the base of them, and the pansies are gone. So obviously the fertilizer doesn't bother Kenai, and he doesn't seem to care about the smell or the taste of it, and he'll just get whatever he can get his little snout on, I guess.
I was going to say, can you put up a little fence? But if it's a golden
Well,
retriever we're talking about, you need
yeah,
more than a
honestly,
fence.
he'd probably climb it.
So how long are we giving this blueberry? Like, what are the odds on this one actually surviving your dog?
Well, at the moment, it's doing quite well. I have it up a little bit higher, and he hasn't quite worked out that there's a blueberry tree out there yet. So as long as he doesn't realize there's one there, I think it'll survive. I'm hoping it will anyway. I really want to get a blueberry off of it.
How long is it until you can get first blueberry though?
Well, they have flowers on them at the moment. I actually haven't Googled it
Okay.
myself. They have flowers on them at the moment, and the flowers have just started to drop their petals. So I'm assuming that
Oh,
a little
okay.
blueberry is going to start growing in the next couple of weeks.
That's cool. That's exciting. Because I was like, I love avocados, and I was looking at, oh, I wanted to grow an avocado because you get the little videos of the sprouts, and that's very quick. And then you find out, like, I think it takes 10 or 20 years before you can get your first avocado. I'm like, I'm just going to go to Woolies and buy them. I'm like, I'm not waiting 10 years.
My mum and dad have an avocado tree out at their house, and we planted it when we first moved to the Whitsundays like 15 years ago. It still hasn't grown
Wow.
an avocado. So I'm sorry, but you're probably going to have to
Oh,
keep buying
God.
from all Coles because you're not going to get an avocado anytime soon.
15 years and it still hasn't grown an avocado.
I said to dad, I said, just get rid of it and get another one. Like it's obviously not producing fruit. But anyway, it's been there for a long time and it has not produced a single avocado.
You sure it's an avocado tree?
I questioned dad as well, but he's adamant it's an avocado tree. He reckons it's
He
an
hasn't
avocado.
accidentally grown like a gum tree or something and is waiting for us to grow an avocado.
Like it's a non-fruiting plant.
Oh dear. But that's very cool. I mean, what got you hooked into gardening? Because the timeline that you mentioned makes me kind of think you got into it during the pandemic, where a lot of people developed new hobbies. Most people's hobby was to become horribly addicted to TikTok. I think your addiction, your chosen addiction is healthier for you. But I was just outside this morning, for example, blowing the leaves away and raking them up. And I don't know why, I can't explain it to you, but I find it incredibly therapeutic. It
Mm,
just lets your brain wander and you can just get out amongst the sun and be an actual human being, not a person in front of the screen all the time. So
yeah.
I'm just curious to know, what is it that got you hooked?
So you're right. It kind of kick-started off around when the pandemic was happening. And even up here, we weren't really locked up in North Queensland. We were pretty lucky with in regards to where we could go. I could still pop down to Bunnings and grab my plants. I didn't have to be isolated to a house. But I had a friend who lives down south actually in Toowoomba, and she was really into plants and had a really big green thumb, and she just kind of got me into it. And she was like, oh, like if you ever want a house plant, like this is the one I recommend, whatever it was, a ZZ tree or plant or something
Yeah.
like that. This is the one I recommend, like start off with this. And then it got to a point where we were just like sending each other, like she'd send me all of the new plants that she got and I was sending her all the new plants that I got. And it got to a point where we were kind of like competing. It was kind of like who has the coolest plant or who has the most expensive plant and who has the best collection. So I blame her for the reason as to why my green thumb had started, because before that I didn't really have much interest.
Yeah, I had a friend who took up similar to yourself, but I don't think it got quite as bad. But she called it her tree baby. I think she even gave it a name.
Oh,
And every day she would send me a photo of tree baby. I think it
no.
died. I think she forgot to water it for a bit too long and tree baby died.
Oh,
But what is your favorite plant to grow? I mean, you got the fruit and the veg happening. So,
mhm.
and that's what I love. Like I like planting something I get to eat later, but is that your new obsession? Or do you still like the good old little house plants?
My new obsession is like things that grow fruit and vegetables. I think just
Okay.
because the fact that you can pick something or harvest
Yeah.
something like a nice accomplishment. But other than that, I do still have my original ZZ tree or plant that I bought all those years ago. He's very big and he's growing lovely. But I don't know if you've ever heard of the plants. They're called elephant ears. Have
No,
you heard of them? So
no.
they come under the term, like they come under the plant species Alocaceas, and they have these beautiful big
Oh, wow.
green. It literally looks like an elephant ear, but they look really nice in the house. I have one next to my TV in my living room actually, and yeah, so that's probably my favorite one. I just like the look of them, and they're very big and full.
That sounds like a very tropical, sort of large, green, and colorful. That sounds nice.
It
Did
is.
you ever grow any carnivorous plants? That's the one I was obsessed with as a child. The Venus
Oh,
flytrap, the pitcher plants, and I never saw. I was so as a kid, you want to see it in action, so I got really tired of waiting. So I'd go kill a fly and then give it to the plant. Apparently, you're not supposed to do that. Did you ever have any interest? Because you've got the weather for where you're at, that tropical weather for those
oh
carnivorous
yeah,
plants.
no, I actually have never had one. I've never done one. But the same as like in regards to like the temptation to wanting to see it close. I've never owned one, but I've seen them in at Bunnings. And I remember I also think it's probably not good for the plant, but I'd walk down the aisles of Bunnings and just kind of like put my finger into the plant, like, and it would close. So that's also, I mean, you feeding it the fly is probably better than me like pointing my fingers into the plant's mouth, I guess. But yeah, I will put my hand up and say that I am guilty of doing that. I've done that more than once.
When are you doing this before you go and do your sausage sizzles, or was this when you were a child?
No, well, I wouldn't say I was a child. It was probably like 2 years ago, but I'm not doing it before sausage sizzles. I'm just doing it while I'm in Bunnings and I see one and just poke at it. But no, this is not from a child. This is me at 23 going and poking Venus flytraps.
Well, I want to ask what that speaks to, but I mean, I guess you're just curious. I mean, I would say if you want to be a bit less mean to the plant, you could just leave your finger in there until it begins to digest part of your fingernail. Then at least it gets some nutrients. But you probably don't want to do that. I mean, I love talking about gardening. Not that I ever thought I would, because I used to hate gardening. I really, really did. I had a bad first experience, and I think sometimes that can color your, experience moving on. But I flicked the first thing. I put a fork in, a weeding fork, and flicked the soil up, and then a leech landed on my hand, and that was the first time I'd ever seen a leech. And the way, I mean, you must get leeches and mosquitoes and all that good stuff up where you're at, and they're terrible. I thought I had cut a slug in half, and yet it was still moving. That traumatized me. So I'm only now 20 years getting back into it. But aside from growing plants for your dog to eat and preparing for Miss Grand Australia, which, as I already said, is, well, for you, you're leaving in a couple of days' time. What do you do to keep busy? I mean, you sound busy. So do you have any time for a hobby, a job, a career? You already said you work at the deportment school. So what else do you do on a daily or weekly basis?
So I am a dental nurse. That is my job. That is what my 9 to 5 is. When I finished high school, I always wanted to work in healthcare, and I love healthcare, and I love being able to help my community. When I first finished high school, I actually wanted to be a pharmacist. And I thought to myself, I'll go and study and be a pharmacist. That's what I really love. That's what I want to do. I loved school, by the way. This is not a hit on school at all. Like, I really enjoyed high school, but I got to the end of grade 12 and I, did all my OP and things like that. And I was going to go and apply. And I kind of thought to myself, I need to have a break. Like, I can't really see myself in Queensland anyway. Pharmacy is a 5-year course. It's 4 years, plus you do a year of interning.
Oh, wow.
So 5-year course. And I was kind of at a point where I was like, I just want to have a break from school. I don't really want to study. So I took a gap year and I started working as a pharmacy assistant, and worked my way up into dispense teching or dispensary teching in pharmacy. So it's basically you work alongside the pharmacist, you scan the script, put the sticker on the box, write out the directions, and the pharmacist checks your work. So I was doing that for about 6 months. And I really loved it. And I thought to myself, why would I go and be a pharmacist when I can kind of do the same thing, but not have the pressure of being a pharmacist, or like, can't really ever get into trouble for anything. So I was really enjoying doing that. I finished that job after working there for 6 months. And then I worked at another pharmacy in the Whitsundays, and I was there for 5 years. So I was in pharmacy for quite a long time. By the end of my career, I was managing a dispensary. So really, really enjoyed it. But again, it all comes down to like the pandemic and COVID, and I just wasn't really liking where community pharmacy was going. And I thought, while I was young and while I had the time and the energy to learn something different, like, let's try something different, sticking into the healthcare industry. So I reached out to a local dental practice that's actually just across the road from where I used to work, and they put me on as a apprentice, I guess you could say. So I've now been working there in September, it'll be 2 years. So I've now been working there for 2 years, and I'm studying to be a dental nurse as well. So yeah, I really enjoy that. That's my 9 to 5. That's what I do Monday to Friday is dental nursing.
Can you tell me, when do dentists, because obviously you work alongside a dentist, when do the dentists learn to ask you a question when they have 10 fingers in your mouth? Is that something that they teach in dental school? Is that just my dentist? Because I don't know. Every time I go to a dentist, they wait till they have 2 gloves, 10 fingers, and 3 instruments in your mouth. Then they ask you, so how are you going? And does your dentist do that?
Yes, every dentist does that. I think you learn it like year of dental school. I don't know why you do it. But you know what, Andrew, it's so funny. We're so bad at it, and the nurses are too. Like, I think it's just, you're doing your job. You don't really think the fact that the person you're talking to has 10 fingers in their mouth. But you actually get really good at hearing the mumble. Like, you actually start to understand the mumble. So, when I
Okay.
first started, the dentist would be talking and they'd be like, "Oh, yeah, like, how was your day?" And they'd mumble along and, they'd be having a conversation. I'm kind of sitting here being like, "What is going on? What are we talking about?" But after being there for 2 years, I can confidently say that I'm fluent in mumble. I know exactly what people are saying
Oh,
when they have things in their mouth.
beautiful. So you become bilingual.
I have. It's a skill.
It's probably not a language that you want to bring out when it comes to pageant interview. I will
Yeah.
say that bringing out fluent mumble. But I mean, I've been to the dentist multiple times, as we all have. That's a stupid thing to say. Of course, everyone's been to the dentist. I will not say that I like the dentist. I hate going to the dentist because that sound of the drill, just
Yeah.
nightmares for everyone.
Mhm.
But what always struck me about the dental nurse was that she seems to need to anticipate what the dentist needs
Mm.
whilst also doing what she needs to do. Like I've never really seen the dental nurse. It's just out of the corner of my eye, and you see
Mm.
her. It's her in my case, darting around, and dentist will say, "I need this," or "We're
Mm.
doing this," and then she'll have to go away, prepare something, put something in a plate, and then come back around, and then she has to make sure you got the rinsing stuff, and then she goes around here, goes around here, then she gives you the glass. Is that as multitasking as I think it is? Like you seem to need to be very quick on your feet.
Is, yeah. And I didn't realize that the job was like that until I was working in the industry. And
Yeah.
it is so full on, and you have to be so good at multitasking, and you have to be so good at being one step ahead of the dentist.
Yeah.
My boss, my dentists at work always say to the girls, like all of the dental nurses, they can't do their job without us. So
Yeah.
they can only do so much with two hands. We call it
Yeah.
four-handed dentistry in like when you're
Uh-huh.
working with a nurse, we call it
Yeah.
four-handed. Sometimes you can even have six-handed if you have two DAs working with you.
Yeah.
But the dentist can't do their job, and without you, you need to be there. So that's actually what I really like about the job. I like that I can be one step of the dentist, and
Yeah.
before they're even asking me for it, I have it handed over to them. So it's definitely a skill that you need to learn as a dental nurse. But yeah, it's definitely, you have to be able to multitask. But I like it. It makes the day go fast.
Yeah, I can imagine. You guys
Mm.
are on your feet the whole day, right? You never get to sit down.
No, we sit all day. We sit all day. So that was the other thing that I had to, depending on the procedure, sometimes we
Yeah.
have to stand. But no, we sit all day long. So that was what I struggled with
Oh,
the
okay.
most, going from pharmacy to dentistry, because in pharmacy, I'd sit behind a computer all day,
Yeah.
grabbing a box, walking over to a cupboard. So I got very good at doing a job where I stood for 8, 9, 10 hours of a day. So then going into
Mm.
dental nursing, where I was sitting for 8, 9, 10,
Yeah.
12 hours of a day, I really struggled with that. And it's something that you learn also as a dental nurse, or if you're working in dentistry, is your posture,
Mm.
and how to sit correctly. Because, it's very quick when you're doing a 3-hour procedure or something to want to slump or want to lean, or,
Yeah.
it's very easy to do so. So that's something that you also need to be mindful while you're doing all of the other things as a dental nurse is,
Yeah.
correct posture and actually sitting correctly, because you can do a lot of damage to yourself.
Well, I mean, you've done the deportment. You know how important good posture is, and
It all
sitting
comes
is
together. Yeah.
well, sitting undoes that posture. Anyone who works sitting down or is slouched down in front of the office, it's really bad for posture. You can just see all these people who are very hunched over and they just need to stretch out. Did you say a 3-hour procedure?
Yeah, that's like a pretty like, I wouldn't say average. I shouldn't say average. That's like not even the longest procedure that we can do. Majority of our procedures are, we're in the chair for like maybe 40 minutes or something before we're turning over for another patient.
Yeah.
But some procedures can go for 3, 4, 5 hours.
Wow.
So you're sitting in one position for up to 5 hours. It's a long time to sit still.
Wow. Okay, that is a long time. What? Just out of curiosity, what is the longest procedure? Is it teeth extraction? Is it root canals?
Yeah, it's mainly surgery stuff. Yeah, so like extractions and all of that sort of thing are usually the longer procedures. Implants and things like that take some time. So yeah, they're usually the bigger ones where you don't want to sit up, and
Yeah.
you want to get the job done. You just got to go in there and get the job done, and just you don't worry about anything else. So yeah,
Yeah.
no
Sounds
toilet
like it
breaks.
keeps. Yeah, you can't leave the poor patient there with all the things hanging out of their mouth to go have a toilet break. It sounds like a pretty full-on job. Do they know about your pageant career? Have you mentioned that you're needing to take a break to go down to Melbourne to compete for one of the biggest pageants in Australia?
Yeah, they do. And they're so supportive. I love my little dental family so much. I'm so fortunate to have them. And they're very understanding of the time that I need to have off and the time that I need to have off in preparation for this. So they're super supportive. I said bye to them. I finished my last shift on Thursday. So I had Friday off. I've got Monday off and I leave on Tuesday, obviously. So they gave me a bit of a hurrah. And yeah, I'm really, really lucky to have that side of them to be so supportive of me.
Yeah, that's very, very cool.
Yeah.
We mentioned all the way back at the beginning that you came first runner up last year.
Mhm.
So just before we move to the final 10, has it been difficult managing any expectations? I mean, do you have any expectations going into it this year? You did so well last year, and that was your first year. So it's not like you had a lot of experience with this system.
Mhm.
So how have the expectations been on yourself, from yourself, for this year's edition?
I'm trying not to put the pressure on myself. I'm just going into the competition like I did last year. Last year, I went into it very open minded. Like you said, I hadn't competed in it before. It was the first time I've ever been a part of that system. So I went into last year being very open minded and I just went in being myself and whatever happened, happened. This year, I think I'm a little bit fortunate knowing that I've competed in that system before. I kind of have an idea of how it works or maybe what they're looking for, but I'm trying not to put the pressure on myself. I'm coming in again this year as prepared as I can be, a little bit more than last year.
Hmm.
I'm coming in being myself, being proud of who I am, being proud of where I come from, and I'm here to represent North Queensland, and I can be your next Miss Grand Australia.
Has it been weird working with Amber at all? I mean, this time last year you were standing on stage holding hands with her, and now she's your director. Has that been a little bit of a hang on? Are you director or are you my sister queen? Like, has it been confusing?
No, Amber she is so deserving of the directorship for Miss Grand Australia. She is so supportive of not only just me, but everybody. She is there for all of us. So there's never been a moment where I'm like, ooh, like, are you on the wrong side of the fence kind of thing? She deserves to be there and she is doing a fantastic job.
Have you been wearing the socks? I saw a post of you wearing the socks. She's gotten the.
Yeah.
It came from like this weird habit of hers always just wearing mismatched socks, and now she's like made a little business out of it. Have you
Yeah.
heard the story about how these socks came to be?
Correct me if I'm wrong, but as far as I'm aware, the conversation, it was a way, oh, what did she say that it was? It had to do with,
It was just her being lazy, basically.
oh, really?
Yeah, she would do. I don't know what she's told you now. Maybe she's gone with
No,
a
no,
better story.
I'm actually so
But
wrong.
but basically, she does her washing, and after washing, you need to pair up your socks, otherwise you
Yeah.
have all your socks mismatched. And she said, "Why would I spend an hour of my precious time matching the socks?" So she just would get in the habit of grabbing whatever two socks were, and they would never match. And then she said, "Well, it's actually a good conversation starter as well." So then she just kept doing it. And now
Mhm.
she's made her little business out of it. But yeah, it basically stemmed from laziness, just so you know.
There you go. I knew that she was doing it as some sort of a conversation starter, but I didn't realize that it was because of the laundry.
Yeah, well, there you go. Peyton, just before we get to the final 10 questions, is there anyone that you'd like to give a shout out to for supporting you along your journey?
I want to give a shout out to my family. My mum, my dad, and my boyfriend and my sisters have been the biggest support for me over the last 2 years, especially my mum. I feel like she probably thinks that she's a part of this competition more than what I am. So I want to give out a very big shout out to my mum and the rest of my family, and also the Whitsunday community. They've been very supportive of me over the last 2 years with my fundraising. So I want to say a huge thank you to them as well, and to the Miss Grand Australia organisation and to Amber for being so supportive of myself and all of the other girls this year.
How many sisters do you have?
I have two younger sisters, so I'm the eldest of three.
Okay, all right. So
Yeah,
you got the old responsible child syndrome going on then.
that's me.
Fair enough. All right, let's go through these final 10. Number 1, what is your favorite word?
My favorite word, probably two words, but they kind of go hand in hand, is please and thank you. I think it's so
Mhm.
important that we use our manners. Saying please and saying thank you goes so far in life, and I think a lot of us take that for granted. So yeah, my favorite words would be please and thank you.
Very nice. Number 2, what is your least favorite word?
When I think of least favorite words, the first thing that comes to mind, and it's a bit makes me just feel yucky, is the word moist. Like, it just kind of freaks me out when I think of the word moist. I think of like the soggy sponge like at the bottom of the sink, and it's like you pick it up and it's gross. So it just immediately gives me the ick. So moist is my least favorite word.
One day I need to commission a study into why so many people, especially girls, hate the word moist. I don't.
Oh,
I You don't have any idea. I mean, after all the interviews I've done, how many girls have said moist is their least
oh, really?
favorite word? Yeah, it's probably the most common answer I get to that question. But my
Oh,
my follow-up question is always, how do you describe a chocolate cake then? When it's lovely, it comes out of the oven and it's
it's
moist.
no, it's dense. It's
It's
dense.
dense and moist don't mean the same thing though.
I
Like,
know, but I
how,
don't want to use the word moist.
how do you describe a cake? Do you call it wet? I mean, if it's wet, it's probably a bit underdone, but anyway. Number 3, in life, what gets you excited? What turns you on?
Um, I think my friends and my family is what gets me excited. I'm really fortunate to have such a small group, but a really close friend group, and I'm always really close with my family. So I think what turns me on in life is my friends and family.
And what about what turns you off?
Negative people. I don't like sour sops, and I don't like people that. I totally get that in life we have bad days and we're not feeling ourselves and we can be down, but I don't think that that is any reason to make someone else feel bad. So I think negative people or being mean to people is just not on, and it's what turns me off.
Sour sops?
Sour sop. Oh, is that an old fashioned thing? Maybe my mum
I've
uses it.
never heard that expression
Oh,
before. Sour sop. It sounds like a lolly.
well, I mean, probably is. Maybe I think my mum uses the term sour sop. It's just like like you're sad and you're like, you're a sour sop.
A sad sack. Okay, got
Yeah,
it.
well, yeah, or a sad sack, yeah.
Sour sop. Number 5, what sound or noise do you love?
I like the sound of rain on the roof, especially at nighttime. I think it's very soothing. My boyfriend doesn't agree, but I like it. It's like a lullaby to go to sleep to.
Well, at least one of you gets a good night's sleep.
Yeah.
Um, Number 6, what sound or noise do you hate?
I hate the iconic iPhone alarm noise. Like, I hate that. I hate that. I can't have it as my alarm because I just hate the noise so much. And when I hear it, it's like immediately I'm like, oh, turned off by it. So yeah, I don't like the iconic iPhone alarm noise.
Doesn't the fact that you hate it make it an exceedingly effective alarm, though, because you have to wake up to turn it off?
Probably, but it just sounds so aggressive. It sounds so aggressive.
Fair enough. Number 7, if you could have any one superpower, what would you pick and why?
I feel like it's a pretty boring superpower, but I would pick strength or like super strength. I feel like that's something that would be very beneficial in my life. I'm not very strong in the upper body, so I feel like I could get a lot of things done if I had super strength.
What's the first thing you would do if you had super strength?
I
Like
would
right now?
vacuum, I would lift my couch up and I would vacuum under my couch. That is what I would do. I've
Sounds
already
like
got
that's sounds like that's been bugging you for a while. Number 8, what job other than your own would you most like to attempt?
I think going back to when I used to work in pharmacy, I think the other job that I would like to try is naturopathy.
Oh
So it's
wow,
kind of
okay, yeah.
similar, it's kind of similar to pharmacy, but a more holistic and natural approach to medicine. So I think that's something that I would like to try.
And what job would you definitely not like to attempt?
Hmm. I feel like anything where it's going to get my hands dirty, like a plumber or something like that. Or my boyfriend's a mechanic, but I couldn't imagine being a mechanic either. I just think if I'm getting in, and here I am saying this as a dental nurse, but I just think getting in and getting my hands dirty, I don't really like the idea of it.
But you love gardening.
I know, but it's like different. Like, I don't know, like the idea of being a plumber and like going through pipes, or a mechanic and dealing with oil and grease and all that sort of stuff. I don't know. I see how Hayden comes home from work with his dirty hands, and I don't want anything to do with that.
But in gardening, you use poo.
Yeah, but you can wash it off. Well, I don't use poo. I,
You don't
I,
you don't use the manure.
no, I don't use any manure.
Okay, all right. Fair enough. Well, you can anyway. To each their own. It's just curious to me. Final question: if heaven exists, what would you like to hear God say when you arrive at the pearly gates?
I would like to hear him say that you should be proud of yourself and you have achieved everything you were meant to achieve.
Very, very nice. Well, Peyton, it has been a blast to get you finally on. Thank you so much, and best of luck in a couple of days' time.
Thank you very much. Thanks for having me. I really appreciate it.
Anytime. I'll keep you on the line for just a sec whilst I hang up with the audience, and we will speak to you next time. Bye for
No
now.
problem. Thanks. Bye.
Hey, thanks so much for watching. Sorority Access is now open. So if you'd like to join an amazing group of women and learn how to be the most powerful, confident, and impactful queen possible, head to thepageantsorority.com. I'll see you there and see you in the next video.